Sir Andrew here, who is Baron Robert Fitzwalter's steward in the area. And the job of a squire is basically a tactical body servant. So in the early 13th century, it's very different from what you might be used to later, where squires are young nobles on their way to knighthood. That kind of exists a little bit in our period, but at this point in time, a squire or a scudifer or an armiger, they are still there. It's a service role. So I'm not aspiring to anything greater than being a servant. Maybe being a slightly higher ranked servant, but that's my job, is to get my knight dressed, take care of his horse, do foraging, not even necessarily to fight very much. So
one of the things that is easy to, and popular culture, even in the Middle Ages, portrayed this image. We think of the knight out by themselves doing bold deeds and acting as a knight errant, but in reality a knight is a weapons system. Okay, and just like today, you expect to have a support team for an aircraft or armored fighting vehicle or any kind of weapon system, you would expect the same thing in the Middle Ages. So although you can put all your armor on by yourself and you can supply your own equipment, it is physically possible to do so. You're much more effective if you have a support staff allowing you to put all of that equipment on and get all of that equipment ready to use. Before we put anything else on, we might have to point out, or at least ask the question, so what is the most important thing for a knight as far as equipment goes? Sword is very useful, but it's not the most important thing. Armor is amazing, but it is not the most important thing. This is a trick question, because the most important thing for the knight is the one thing we can't have here. Horse. Okay? His horse. Because what makes a knight is a soldier who is trained and expecting to fight on horseback. So I do have my saddle, but my horse is sadly not here. He's enjoying his day eating grass in the field. Yes. Yes. So if you've ever, we're familiar with the term chivalry. Chivalry literally means what the horse soldiers do. So it's the code of behavior you would expect a horse soldier to do. So as Sir Samuel here and Jarrett are putting on Sir Samuel's armor, what you'll notice is layers are key to how armor works in this period. And one of the questions that gets asked very, very frequently, and you're kind of watching it as we go here, is how long does it actually take you to put on all the armor? And that's kind of like asking how long is a piece of rope. Because depending on what you're expecting to do and what level of armor you have will change dramatically the amount of time it gets dressed. One of the expectations in 1215 for a really well-armored knight is that you were equipped in mail cap a pie, head to toe. Now sadly, Sir Samuel is not going to meet that goal, because he is lacking the armor for his legs.
Sir Andrew has them.
So the first thing that you would put on in arming yourself is actually to armor your legs, because it is the slowest and hardest piece of armor to put on. They have to fit very, very tightly.
About my neck.
They are all strapped up in different areas to distribute the weight, because remember, I have to be able to get into my saddle. I have to control my horse with my legs. If I get out of the saddle, I still have to be able to fight on foot. So what you might see, particularly in a camp like this on a war footing, is when I got up this morning, the first thing I did was I had my squire put on my leg armor. Because now I can just throw on my gambeson, and I can throw on my hauberk, and I can be fully armored and ready to fight.
where is your gambeson?
My gambeson is laying on top of my bed. The legs weigh about 15-20 pounds. No, together. They're actually the heaviest single piece of armor is either the hauberk, which Sir Samuel's putting on now, the shirt, or your helmet, depending how heavy of a helmet you have. One of the technology that is improving in this period, if you've gotten a chance to talk to Corey, our crossbowman, with his fearsome device. Or if you can imagine us as knights mounted on horseback with an 11-foot lance riding at you full gallop and ready to strike you with that lance, the impact of weapons has improved considerably by 1215. And what that means is that armor is having to improve to keep pace. There is no graceful way to put on male armor. There just isn't. And one of the things that you'll see later today when we take our armor off is it is even less graceful to take it off.
He wanted me to stop. Is that ring cuff?
Yes.
You got a ring
yes.
cuff.
If you can easily get into your armor, it means that it's too loose. And while that doesn't seem like it would be a problem, remember, if it's bigger, you're using more metal and it's heavier. And whenever you move, all of that metal is going to shift and swing, and it's going to be that much more effort to try to be able to do what you need to do. So right now we've got 2 layers of armor on. There's a layer of padding called an aketon or a gambeson. Medieval people were not very precise in the terms that they used. We try to apply very specific terms to things and understand what medieval people were talking about. But if you were to ask a medieval person, you know, what do you call this sword? They would say, sword. They didn't typologize it the way that we try to today to try to make sense out of it. And so gambeson, wambas, aketon may all refer to the same thing. They may not. It can be worn as standalone armor.
I just need to move into
okay, and the expectation for everyone in the community is if we are called to war, you will come with a padded coat, a gambeson, and a helmet. It was a law that was passed by Henry II called the Assize of Arms. We know because they had to pass a law saying you had to have this equipment, perfectly modeled here by Jonathan. If they're making laws saying that you have to have this, that means that a lot of people don't have it. Because otherwise they wouldn't have to make a law. They keep reissuing this over and over again. Like, no, really, we mean it. You actually have to have your military equipment to be able to serve. But when you and don't underestimate the value of just that padded clothing as armor. It does a very, very good job. Now, if you're being attacked full bore with a very sharp sword, it will slow it down, but it will probably not save you. Once you put on the mail here, you are pretty much invulnerable to the sharpness of a sword. I can't cut through that. Now, if I hit him hard enough, I might break some bones.
That's what the maces are for.
Yes.
All right, now circa over my head.
So this is a really important part of the equipment because coats of arms are starting to develop in this period. Now, if you see these 2 knights on the battlefield, which one are you going to want to ransom for money?
That one.
Yes. The silk is nicer, it's more complicated, the fabric is better, so you show, even when you're wearing armor, you show your status and your value by what you're wearing.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to be ransomed rather than, you know, just getting shanked. So yes.
It is a life insurance policy.
Yes.
I'm worth far more to you alive. Don't kill me. No, really, don't kill me. Yes. I'm sorry?
Is your army made up of mostly your peasants from the villages?
Yes and no. It depends on what you're trying to do. So the question was, is your army mostly made up from your peasants? And the expectation was in times of critical warfare, yes. You would call up the levy. And everybody theoretically, everyone in a medieval world is required to serve 40 days to their lord. Now that may be plowing their fields, that may be serving in the levy. If you are a landed knight like Sir Samuel here, that may mean that you have to leave your manor and you serve your lord for 40 days. Now in my case, what is interesting is our roles are the opposite what you would expect by looking at us. Usually older, richer looking knights are landed. They have their own manors, they are their own lords, they have their own property. I'm actually a household knight. Usually you expect your household knights to be young guys who are working up to try to get some land. But I am Baron Robert Fitzwalter's steward for the village of Little Dunmow. Little Dunmow it lives up to its name. It is a very small village in Essex. It was built up to support the Priory of Little Dunmow, which was a priory of canons regular, as Pascal here is portraying. But if you are Baron Robert Fitzwalter, you're not spending a lot of time at the little village of Little Dunmow. But taxes need to be raised, justice needs to be given, and all of those things still need to happen. So you might appoint one of your knights to do that job. And so Baron Fitzwalter would keep someone like me around, not necessarily because of the strength of my arm anymore, but because I have those administrative abilities. And I can keep the money flowing in and keep the people happy and keep it being profitable for him.
String go.
Any other
One
questions?
of the things, too, with armor, this can always be done faster,
Not in the string.
but there's always risks to that. The more time you take in making sure everything fits and is adjusted properly, the better job that the armor does.
Okay, I've got it.
And your squire is more likely to spot those things than you are.
There we go. Okay. That's it.
One of the most famous knights of this age, a man by the name of William Marshall, who on his deathbed is called the greatest knight who has ever lived. At the battle that ends the Barons' War in 1217 in the town of Lincoln, he is fighting in combat at 68 years old. And he is riding into battle, leading the army in the attack. And his squire rides up next to him to point out that he has forgotten to put his helmet on. So even in those moments, even somebody who has been doing this their entire lives needs their squire around to remind them, sir, put your helmet on.
We do an important job.
And he would have been killed in that battle if he had not been wearing a helmet. Sir Thomas Perche, one of the French knights opposing him, repeatedly hit him over the head with his sword. So
That's good.
Yeah, so squires weren't really expected to do much fighting. They would raid, they would pillage. There's some accounts of them, pillaging towns that have been taken, maybe being a bit unruly. They would also forage. In fact, you'll find in a lot of, in some medieval poetry that Lombards are stereotypically portrayed as cowardly peoples. It's just kind of a racist stereotype of the medieval period. But one of the ways in which they indicate this, that the Lombards are cowards, is during a retreat, the knights, so they can get away. They have their squires fight a rearguard action.
So it's
like the Lombards are making their squires fight. They're cowardly people. So it's one of those things. It's like they could fight if they needed to, but in a
looks good.
In a mid sort of 13th century illustration of David and Goliath, the giant is dressed as a knight and he has a squire with them going into battle. The squire isn't even wearing armor. He's got a sword on, he's got a padded cap, but he's not wearing gambeson because his job is to hold his. There's a reason he's called a scudifer or a shield carrier or an armiger or an armor carrier, because that's what he does. I would hold the knight's extra lances, maybe a remount for him if he had that sort of thing, staying behind the battle line and send my weapon system itself into combat. What are we looking for?
Is it my nasal helm?
It wasn't it? You didn't have it intended.
No. So when we talk about things like coats of arms, and do you want to grab Sir Samuel's shield? One of the reasons that coats of arms become more and more critical, there's Sir Samuel's colors, is because as a knight in 1215 you have lots of options. And a helmet like this, although it seems a little out of date by 1215, is actually still quite common because it offers you quite a lot of advantages. You have good vision, you have good breathing, you can hear well, but you will notice that there are two nice gaps on either side of Sir Samuel's nose, and if I'm riding against him with a lance and that point hits there, he is dead. So you have helmets that have started to develop more protection, such as the full faceplate. This will stop a lance directly against your face. This is very protective,
I can live.
but this is not necessarily the best helmet for wearing in open warfare, because your ability to see and breathe and hear is vastly restricted. And if you look over on the table when you're done here, you'll also see a similar helmet. Nate is holding it right now. That is my helmet. That is a closed helmet, but it is designed specifically for war. What is the difference? Okay, it's slightly different shape. It's also heavier.
Someone said
Yes.
wider slits.
Yes. The two ladies right here nailed it. They're more extensive. They call
got it
them
too.
breaths in the face mask. It is easier to get that air into your helmet. You can also see through this. As something that's not realized, how do you see where your feet are going? Well, you look through the breaths. And more importantly, when you're on horseback, this is how you see where your reins are on your horse. Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very important to know where your reins are. And the length of the eye slot means that you get peripheral vision. I can see what's going on back here when I'm on horseback, which is really important on horseback because where your head goes, your horse goes. And so you're not turning your head needlessly if you don't have to. But I have often shifted to this when doing things on horseback, just because the ability to see and breathe is absolutely worth it. Yes.
There's a
Yes.
reason that later on great helms developed to fit over things like this, so that when you got into the heat of combat, you could ditch the great helm and still have the helm on.
Your other technique. So again, I could not have my horse, but I do have my bridle. War reins have a ring at the end of them, so that even if I am not looking and I had to drop my reins because I needed to use my shield and my sword, I can reach down, I can find that ring, I can grab it, and I'm immediately centered on my reins on my horse. And I know exactly where they are.
And they're flipped over you, so the ring is at your back, so you don't lose them completely when you ride.
It will sit, if I drop, yeah, if you would grab the, it's amazing how you find the ways that the equipment works together once you start using it. If I'm riding and I drop my reins, they just rest right on the pommel. Okay? And it's a very tall seat in the saddle. This is not a comfortable saddle to ride in over long distances because you legitimately have a metal bar right between your legs. But a medieval riding style is very, very straight-legged. And what that does is that angle gives you immense stability in the saddle. So I can lean over at the waist and I can cut down with a sword, and I'm not going to go anywhere in the saddle, and I'm not going to shift my weight so much that my horse is going to turn.
Because rather than riding on something that's round, you're riding on something that's more oblong, and you have...
Yes. And it does the job very well. You're very welcome.